All right, Laffer, of course, the Gipper talking about tax rates with his always sunny and optimistic outlook on life and America, which I adore, of course, and so do you. All right, what happens to tax rates now if we get this $1 trillion stimulus package, if we spend another $1 trillion on TARP, another $2 trillion on TARP 3, TARP 4, TARP 5, TARP 7? Yeah, what happens to future tax rates in the economy, Art?
Yeah, well, let me just say that when you compared Obama with Reagan right there, it sounded like Jimmy Carter being compared with Reagan. It's shocking how negative Obama is.
Oh, my goodness. That's ridiculous. Come on.
He's not that type of guy. But let me just say, they are going to raise taxes substantially in the future. They'll have to, Larry. With this amount of national debt, there's just no alternative.
And, Larry, what was really disturbing about Obama's inaugural address was the concept that this is some sort of a nation where, you know, the decks are stacked against poor people, and, you know, you can't get ahead. There's no way of getting ahead of it. That was so disturbing.
Charlie,
I agree.
Charlie, what address did you hear? I didn't hear that, Charlie.
Did you?
I was there. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Replay the clip.
Let's play the clip.
Replay the clip that Larry just said. You'll hear exactly what he said. He said that the DAX are essentially stacked against people. You can't get ahead, and that's the worst thing you could say right in this environment. But, you know, the second thing he said about Wall Street rings incredibly true, Larry. You have to give him credit on this. When he was talking about how, you know, these guys going around giving themselves bonuses, this is a time for restraint and common sense, I'll tell you, I thought he hit it out of the park with that one.
Yes, okay, but you know what? First of all, there was no law against modest bonuses, because the bonuses
modest
were a lot
bonuses,
lower.
Larry?
Yes, modest bonuses. And
modest bonuses.
I want to read you a clip. This is from News Story Today. The Government Accounting Office, the GAO, says a $700 billion financial rescue fund cannot draw talented workers because the poor pay and must borrow workers from other federal agencies. And that shows you that the irony here is, you know, if you don't pay people, you're going to get bad people. Now,
well, you know, Larry,
that's not what he's saying, though. He is saying that he's not saying that, Larry. He wants you to pay people honest wage. But if you are coming to the government to get money, you cannot transfer that money to employees. That's not a fair situation.
Larry, if you're working on Wall Street right now and you're making a couple $100,000 a year, you should be happy to have a job.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm just saying that what's going on now, what scares me about what these morons on Wall Street do is that they give credence to what Barack Obama said in his inaugural address.
Laffer, what do you think about Charlie calling the Wall Street people morons?
Well, I don't think they're all morons by any means. But let me just say that they do go for money, and that's what they're there for. They're not there for any social good or et cetera. They want to make personal money, and that's what we have to harness, Larry, to make it work for pro-America. That's why Reagan did the tax cuts.
But Larry,
tax cuts are not the only answer, guys.
But Art, here's the thing. When you start talking about giving bonuses now,
let me switch gears.
It's so crazy.
Okay, I understand. I think Wall Street has a tin ear. Okay, I'll grant you that.
I think so too.
I'll grant you that, Charlie. Charlie, I want to ask you this. I want Will Straw to come back in. Looking ahead to this coming week regarding the TARP bailout. Right. Now, Charlie, if not a bad bank structure, what? In your reports and conversations with sources, what's the second choice and the third choice?
Well, it could be a combination of the bad bank plus some of these guarantees, something like they did with Citigroup. Remember?
Right.
Citigroup, they didn't exactly buy the stuff from them, but they guaranteed $300 billion of the bad stuff. So you can get a combination of that plus a bad bank. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they believe. There's a lot of different things on the table they believe. But here's the scary thing, is that there was momentum for this bad bank. The market loves this thing because it's conceptually makes sense. But that momentum right now, listen, as of this afternoon when I made my final calls, that momentum has stalled.
Well, come back to you on the stimulus package. Mars said maybe corporate tax rates will be on the table, but he gave it a 4 out of 10. Well, how might President Obama make this a much more reasonable package? Right now, I don't know that the package is going down, but I think the public is losing support and confidence in both the astronomical numbers and the details of all this social spending. And by the way, Will, there's a story today in the New York Post. I missed this. Welfare reform was probably abolished in the House version because the heart of welfare reform was putting a cap on cash to states for welfare. That cap has been removed now, and that reestablishes the welfare state. Well, so what can be removed? Can we get rid of this transfer social spending stuff and put some true stimulus in there?
Well, I mean, I do actually regard a lot of this money to those most in need as being proper stimulus, and I'll tell you why. Tax cuts are all well and good, and there are about $300 billion of tax cuts in both the House and the Senate plan, and that's quite right. But at the moment, giving tax cuts to businesses won't guarantee new investments because the credit markets are frozen.
Absolutely.
And giving tax cuts to individuals won't guarantee they'll spend it because there's so little confidence. So what you need to do is increase stuff on the demand side as well. You need to encourage people to actually want to spend some money. And the way to do that is partly to help those most in need through food stamps and unemployment insurance. It's also to give those people who've lost their jobs jobs again. So that means doing a lot of the infrastructure expenditure.
Well, my colleague here finally hit it on the head here, Larry.
Will, did you do your economics graduate work under Maynard Keynes at Cambridge in the 1930s?
Well, I was at Oxford and then I was at Columbia. So,
I see. Will, have you ever gone to a food stamp recipient? I'm not denying the need for a safety net, by the way.
Yeah.
Although they're raising this safety net so high, it's going to start picking up middle-class entitlements again. But have you ever gone to a safety net recipient and asked for money to start up a new technology company? Does investors and capitalists play a role in your economic growth model?
Of course it does, and that's why.
Where does it come in?
Well, there's a lot of money investing in science and technology. That's very important. The R&D in this country has been able to fall behind Japan and Korea, so that's a very, very good use of some of the money.
All right, Laffer, what do you think of what our Oxford Don, Will Straw, is saying here? How do you interpret that?
I agree with your earlier statements, Larry. There is no stimulus from this package. For every stimulus recipient there's a taxpayer who's liable for it, who's destimulated.
Right, and by the way,
Bob Barrow put that in perfectly. It's in Gwartney and Shoup and in the 83 American Economic Review. Everyone knows that in serious economics. And it has the substitution effects, which are being doubled down and will really hurt the economy.
And Larry, think of this. We're going to be building roads and bridges we probably don't need.
Well, actually, you know what, Charlie?
That's not necessarily true, Charlie.
We've been talking about this infrastructure prior.
You know, Charlie,
you don't have to drive very far out of D.C. to see quite how bad the state of the roads is.
Charlie, Japan paved over the Pacific Ocean. It didn't help. Now, here's the funny part.
And it's going to be corruption left and right.
This package doesn't even have roads and bridges. They got a lousy $30 billion, of which only a third of it gets spent in the next 18 months, Morris Reed. This package, by the way...
That's not true. 75%.
Well, listen, there's some room to compromise,
somebody has to bring a truth in advertising lawsuit against this package, because the public thought it was getting infrastructure, but what it's got is the largest transfer payment social spending package in the history of the earth.
Listen, this is what they need to do in Washington. They need to have, someone needs to get everyone on the same page. If Barack is going to give a little bit, the Republicans can't vote 100% against it. Charlie Gasparino hit on a good point today, but here's something that we need to, we don't need to rush to judgment on TARP. The problem with Paulson was they had tried to cram 8 to 9 months in 3 months. We don't need to rush on this.
Well, no,
we need to get it right.
I want 8 to 9 months.
They were trying to cram 8 to 9 months in 3 days.
Right.
Absolutely. We need to get it right.
It was my take at the top of the show. I want everybody to step back for a couple of months. I want to put all this stuff on the show. A couple of months.
That's what
we can't afford a couple of months.
That's what Feldstein said in the Washington Post. That's what Alice Rivlin said. He's a Republican. She's a Democrat. Let's step back and try to think through what in God's name we are doing here.
Absolutely.
All right, Art Laffer, Morris Reed, Will Straw, Charlie Gasparino. You're all terrific.